Welcome back, friends. Thanks for being here. Buckle up and subscribe because it's going to be fun. This is machine number 3 in the Commodore 64 6-pack haul that we've been working on. I've already gotten rid of all the RF shielding in the case, and we are ready to get started, so let's jump right on into it. A quick look at the machine. I'm a genius here. It tells me that the video chip's missing and the 3 ROM chips are missing. I can clearly see that. Something else that I see is that a couple of these RAM chips are different varieties. We've got Micron and Texas Instruments here. That could be whatever they had on hand that day, or it could be evidence that somebody replaced a bunch of RAM chips and didn't bother putting them in sockets. So I raided the spares pile. We have the VIC from last week. We know that one works. I've got these 3 ROMs here. I don't know whether they work or not, but we will certainly find out. So first things first, let's get the VIC in. Let's get the other camera set up. All right, you can see there's no signal on the screen, and we will turn it on. We've got power to the dead test cartridge, and we've got blinking lights. One only. One only is U12. U12 is this one right here. So let's try that piggyback method that we did last time. 1, 1, 1. Yep, so that didn't work. And sometimes this doesn't work. Let's try bending these pins down, make sure we have good contact. One, one, one. Yep, alright, that's not working. And sometimes it doesn't work, so let's go ahead and get that chip desoldered out, and we'll be right back when that's done. Alright, that's all out. Let's start working on putting the next one back in. So I got a socket out. Make sure the notch lines up with the silk screen. Put that in place. Would help if I had some solder. Let's get some solder out here. Soldering iron is up to temp. A little bit of solder on the tip of the soldering iron. We've got that pinned in place. Let's check our work. Looks pretty good. Let's solder it home. Alright, that's all done. Got one that might not look all that good. Let's double check it. It'll be fine. Alright, let's grab that RAM chip. Put that in place. Plug in power. Plug in video. Get the other camera set up again. Alright, there was no light on the dead test cartridge. And so I wiggled this power jack a little bit and it came back to life. So before we go too much farther, let's reflow the solder on that power connector. Alright, let's see how that works out. Video again. Power again. 1, 1, 1. Alright, so let's try one more RAM chip. One, one, one. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. The dead test cartridge says that if this RAM chip is bad, then it, even though you've replaced it, it could indicate that either this chip or this chip is bad. And that may still not be the problem, so after you go down that path, they start telling you to clip off individual legs and run tests to see if anything else changes. So what I have also seen that could be an issue is that one of these 74 series logic chips go bad. So I have a couple of replacement RAM chips. Off camera I tested out all the RAM that I have, and all of it is fine, including this one that's in here now that's given me the error code. So I know it's not this. So it's either these two or one of these, and I only have 2 sockets left. So we're going to roll the dice, and we're going to replace the 74 series logic chip and see what happens. I'm going to desolder that, and then we will come back and put a socket and put a new 74 series logic chip in. Stay tuned. Alright, that's done. So let's get this other chip socket installed. Yeah, that didn't feel right. It poked the pin out the far side of the socket there. So what I think I'm going to try and do is pull up on the socket to get it to pop that pin back in where it belongs, or we'll just yank it out of the socket altogether. That takes care of that problem too. Alright, let's try that again. Alright, one corner in. That's hot. Alright, that looks good. Alright, let's get the other camera set up and we can test this out. No signal over there. This is the old chip, because you can still see some solder on the legs. This is the new chip. Let's get this thing installed. Alright, that's installed. Power, video, and lights. Make sure the external power supply is actually on. That always helps. Power on, we have video signal, and we have one flash. So let's check real quick. And stick another 74 series logic chip in there just to be safe. I guess I put those all the way away. Alright, try again. 1, 1. Okay, so that didn't do it. Now I have one socket left. We will try to, you know what we can do? We can actually piggyback that RAM again and see if that solves that problem. It may or may not. 1, 1, that's not it. Let's try piggybacking two of them. 1, 1. All right. Let's see where we go from here. All right, let's try that. Still just a little too tight. Let's whip out the desoldering iron gun and give it one more go. One more try. She's moving. There we go. Put that one off to the side so we can check it out a little bit later, just in case. Looks like everything's good under there. Alright, socket looks good. Let's get her done. I wonder if the vias are just bigger on this board, because it's taken a lot more solder than I would expect. Alright, flip it over. Try another RAM chip. Power. Video. Get the screen warmed up. Alright, you can see that there's no signal over there. Power on. One flash. Yay! Alright, even though I have no sockets, I'm going to go ahead and remove and replace that other chip, just in the interest of getting this job done. Well, let's try that. Oh, like butter. Okay, so I know that this one's good because I've tested it, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a known good chip in there, now that I've mixed all of my pieces up. Put this one over here. Just another one that I think is good, but just to make sure that I don't solder in a part that I know isn't very good to begin with. Alright, that's pinned. Looks good. Now let's run it home. Solder's going everywhere except for on the pin. Alright, we've got that new RAM chip hard soldered in. We've got power and video back in. Start the other camera up. And turn it on to see what happens. Nice. 1, 1, 1, plus a whole bunch of weird jumble stuff in the beginning. Let's turn this off. Try again. 1, 1, 1. Okay, so the weird jumble stuff in the beginning, and it turned yellow, so I'm thinking PLA, and I've seen this happen a couple of times before, so I'm going to get the PLA desoldered and socketed and see what I have for spares. Be right back on the other side. Okay, maybe, just maybe, there might be some chips left on this thing when we're done. That popped up nice on that side. Popped up nice there. There we go. Take this socket and we'll put it in. Looks good. All right. One corner in, another corner in, nice and flat. Let's solder it home. It's going to turn into a drinking game. How many times can I say let's solder it home in one video? All right. Let's get everything set up again. Put a different PLA in. The other camera rolling. Power. Video. No signal. Turn her on. Alright, this might be some progress. Or it might not be some progress. We didn't get any memory errors this time. But we also didn't get anything useful. Set that one off to the side. Put a different PLA in. Let's try that out. No memory errors. And also no video. We got sound that time. Ooh, there we go. There's some progress. Alright, there is a pictorial guide to C64 screen errors and what they mean, and I will post a link to that down below. I will take a look at that. The PLA got pretty warm pretty quick too. I'll take a look at that myself and see what it tells me, but because I'm hearing weird noises, I'm thinking there might be something wrong with the SID, so we will take a look at that and see what happens. Okay, so checking out the pictorial guide offered a lot of help. It said that it could be various logic chips, which it could be. It could be the CIAs, which it could be. It could be the PLA, which it could be. It could be bad RAM, which we've kind of gone through some RAM issues already. So at this point, I am going to socket the CIA chips, and I am going to remove the SID just to get it out of the way for testing. Okay, for those of you that know, you're just going to nod and smile when I say this, but for those of you that don't, it's actually really easy to get the solder out when you reflow and add a little bit of fresh solder to it, which is why I went ahead and added all the fresh solder to this before I got started. Also, the traces on these boards are pretty delicate, so I wanted to take some extra time and try not to lift any traces. The infamous SID chip is free. One CIA. Ah, don't like that sound. 2 CIA. All right. Everything looks good there. Let's get some sockets in. This pin has popped out of this socket. Let's put that one back in. And it popped out again. So there's probably a little bit of solder left in that one hole. Let's get this one pinned in place so we can free up a hand. Lost the pin entirely. Well, in case you were wondering what a pin in a socket looks like, there you have it. Before I got the desoldering iron, it was actually easier sometimes to pull the pins. Obviously you can't really do it with something like this, but it was easier to pull the pins from some of the other sockets. Pull the sockets from the pins so that all that was left behind was just a bunch of individual metal pins you could pull out one at a time. But the desoldering station makes quick work of all this, which is really nice. So I made that my friend. Instead of fighting with it, heated up a solder just a little bit in order to get that one pin to go through the board. And then when you took the soldering iron away, it was good to go from there. All right, good enough. Quick inspection. I feel like the holes in this board are really super big, and so it requires a little more solder than what you might think. Alright, let's try it out. So the theory is that the CIA isn't needed, and then if you do a little bit of isn't needed to do the diagnostic cartridge. And then if you do a little bit of digging, you see that you need at least one of them, and depending on which one you have in, changes the results of what you get on the screen. So we'll try it first with no CIA in, and see what happens. Put in a PLA, because it's not going to work at all without a PLA. The other screen's set up, the other camera's set up. Let's see. Okay, I've got a solid burgundy color, which I think is a potential bad PLA still. Let's pull that out and set it aside. I have 3 PLAs here and I don't know if any of them are good, but the chances of all 3 of them being bad are kind of high actually. These PLAs are known to go bad. So nothing on screen for this one, and there's the test. So you don't really need either CIA to get it to boot. There's your proof. But if you let this test run for a while, what you'll see is the 2 clock lines on the bottom. One is one CIA and the other is another CIA. And so they'll get out of sync with each other and display random wonky data like they're doing right now. So all the RAM chips are okay, 0 page is okay, stack page is okay, screen RAM is okay, color RAM is testing, and we're back. The sound test should fail because there's no SID installed right now. And we went through one successful test run. So that leaves me with these 2 CIA chips. And what we'll do is we'll put one in and see what happens. We'll put the other one in and see what happens. There's one. Alright, one complete test with that SID. With that CIA. Death grip sockets. that one off to the side. Well, that's interesting. So it could be a couple of things. This could have been bad solder connections on either one of the two. If it gets all the way through this test and it's fine, then I'll put the other one back in, which would mean it's bad solder connections and we found our problem, which is great. And if I put them both back in and they both have some problems, then we gotta keep on troubleshooting. All right. Well, those both checked out. Let's try them both at the same time. And you can see down here that we are keeping a little bit better time. All right. So it could have just been some bad solder joints, or it might have even been something with the SID getting in the way. I'm going to put the ROMs back in and see if it boots up without the dead test cartridge. Fingers crossed. Yay! Awesome. So now I need to get a socket for the SID, get the SID in and get the SID tested. Okay, so off camera, I went ahead and desoldered a socket off of another machine that I have because I am out of sockets that are SID sized, and soldered it into this board. So let's put the SID back in that the machine came with and see where we're sitting. We've got the dead test cartridge in. Let's get the other camera rolling. All right, so no signal on the screen. Turn it on and we get a signal. Dead test cartridge lights up and we've got a steady one blink, which is kind of where we started from before we replaced just about everything on this board. So I'm gonna pull this chip out, turn it on and see what happens. All right, and there is the dead test cartridge up and running, so all the RAM passed. So something inside of this SID is causing problems. Got a spare SID from my known good working machine from the last video. Put that in there, turn it on, and there is our dead test screen again. So without the SID, it works fine. With a known good SID, it works fine so far. I'm gonna wait to hear the melody that we love oh so much. Awesome. Okay, so I need to take this SID out. Well, first let's run it without the dead test. Yay! Alright, so what have we learned? I guess that once you get to the point of that single blink RAM check, and you've replaced that RAM chip with known good RAM, that probably you just want to take everything else out and put in some sockets and start testing from there, because it could have been a bad SID, it could have been a weak solder joint on one of the CIAs, it could have been a bad PLA, it could have been any number of things. So it turned out that the PLA was indeed bad, and it turns out that the SID was bad. So these two RAM chips were probably fine, and I will test those out. This logic chip was probably fine, and I can put the original logic chip back in. But next machine, when it gets a little hairy like that, I'm going to take out the CIAs, I'm going to take out all the ROMs, I'm going to socket the PLA and replace it with a known good one. I'm going to pull out the SID, I'm going to see what happens. So stay tuned for the next one. That wraps this one up. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that fancy YouTube stuff. I do have a PayPal link down below for donations if you think what I'm doing is fantastic. Likes or thumbs up or thumbs down if you didn't like what I was doing. And we will see you on the next round. Thanks a lot.